Hello everybody, my name is MegazardX, and today Google revealed something very interesting at the Game Developers Conference today. And for the first time ever, Google is actually entering the console market, but not as a traditional console, but they're the first ones to jump in, one of the first ones, and majorly push at all streaming services, and it's going to be called Stadia. Today, I just want to kind of just go through just like my general impressions and just kind of what I thought about that overall presentation. And right now, just kind of looking at some of the people on the internet, people just kind of got like some mixed feelings. And I feel like this is a market that can go towards a lot of people, but yet at the same time, not a lot of people may not go to it. Google already has a lot of money, and they already have the ton of resources and the infrastructure to be able to hit a $2 billion plus market just by snapping their fingers. So having them enter in the console market could be either a good thing or a bad thing, and affecting all the competition and everything else. So I just want to kind of give my thoughts right now. And they started off the conference with a dude that came up there and literally said, "I don't play a lot of games, but I do play some FIFA." Now right out the gate, it just kind of, I don't know, that in itself kind of just set the tone for the whole entire conference. It's going to be like, maybe it's going to be good, maybe it's not. I don't know. I felt like they could have introduced that whole idea better. They didn't start off on the right foot. I based upon what they just said, I didn't think they started off on the right foot. But anyway, there was that. And then going on into it, we got the whole reveal to Stadia. They had a really good vision. Like, imagine you just looking on, searching through YouTube, you're on Ubisoft's official site, and you see Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and it says, hey, you can play now. At the very end of their trailer, you just click the play now, and it loads up in 5 seconds. That right there is a key selling point that could be really good for a lot of people in terms of just kind of getting games out there and getting them into their fingertips and being able to play. And you can tap into a much larger audiences, that people that don't have a dedicated console, such as your Nintendo, your PlayStation products, or your Xboxes. You could tap into a whole new market and introduce a whole lot more people. Overall, just having Stadia just being brought into the fray could actually be good in terms of just pulling in more people into playing more console games than ever before. But at the same token, there's a lot of doubts or a lot of worries about this service. And some quick ones that I just kind of noticed, you know, just looking at the presentation along with public perception of all of this, is we don't know an exact price of how much all this is going to cost. Now, with it being like an online streaming services, I feel like there's like either a couple or a few ways they can actually do this. Number one, it could be similar to like the Steam setup, where you go to their online store and you can essentially buy a game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey for like the $60, and then you'll be able to play that anywhere on your phone, your laptop, your desktop, your tablets, or on your TV if you have Chromecast. So basically anything that you can pull up a Google Chrome browser and you'll be able to play it. That's one approach they can do it. Another one could be like a subscription-based service, similar to how you have your Xbox Game Pass. They could be something similar to that, where you just pay $60 a year, so to say, to be able to play all the different amount of games that could be potentially on the Stadia system. And that one right there, just due to like the huge amount of games that are going to be potentially on this service, I don't feel like it might not be the membership way, but it may be more the former of having to pay that set $60 for you to do it though. But the whole key selling point about this whole thing is you'll be able to enter in to the console market without necessarily having to pay a whole bunch up front. And I guess that's all I had to say about the pricing though. But then the other second negative thing I could potentially think about with this system is the data cap concern. Now, ideally, if you were playing this on your phone, which is not the most ideal thing, but most people, you may have a 10 gigabyte data cap on your cell phone. So ideally, it wouldn't be kind of feasible to play this out on the go a whole bunch, unless you're connected to a bunch of Wi-Fi hotspots, as well as potentially, you know, it's just not feasible to play Stadia on the go on your phone all the time unless you're connected to a Wi-Fi source. However, even if you were connected to a Wi-Fi spot, let's say like you're at home and you're playing this on your computer, well, even then, even if you have unlimited Wi-Fi, there's still a sort of kind of cap that most people might have in their traditional homes, such as there are some places here in the US where in your neighborhood at your house, you might have like a 300 gigabyte cap on your Wi-Fi, and even if you had unlimited, there's a natural point where most Wi-Fis will just start to slow down whenever you start using up an insane amount of gigabytes for your data usage for your house. So that's also a thing, and there are also some numbers showing around that if you're streaming 4K with 60 to like up to 120 frames per second, you can be blown through those gigabytes insanely fast per hour of usage. So it is going to be interesting to see how Google kind of situates and tries to deal with that. And based upon, I don't know if they found a way how to shrink that number to where it's not going to be as heavy with streaming it and it will take up less gigabytes to stream back and forth. Yeah, it's just a thing that we have to see from Google, and as time goes on, we have to keep an eye out on that, because that could be really critical as a huge success or a breaking point for this whole system. And next, I kind of wanted to talk about the future of Google and where it's going. And I'm thinking that the streaming thing, I think as it's going on into the future, I think there's a really big potential for all of it. Because as we notice now, like me myself, I like collecting physical copies, and I know some of my other friends like Mario and Sylveon, they like their physical copies. But on the other hand, I'm just noticing like people that are younger than me, like my cousin and just younger generations in general, I feel like for us, being around 20 plus years old, we kind of grew up with physical media, so there's always like that good feeling of just holding that cartridge or holding that disc and saying, oh, we enjoy that box art. No, but I feel like for younger generations, I feel like just the future and where they're going, it's like they've been brought up in the digital age where they don't have to necessarily run out to GameStop to go pick up a game. And you can actually see that with GameStop's numbers, how they're not doing as good as selling their physical media anymore, and the digital market and everything is actually affecting those kind of sales as well. And you can look up the numbers and everything though, but you're starting to see more digital numbers getting higher than, so to say, the actual physical sales and how they're selling. So I feel like it's just, you know, different audiences prefer more different things, but I feel like the younger audiences, as they're growing up within a more technologically advanced civilization where we're heading towards, I feel like this is going to be more towards digital. It's just going to be more convenient, and it'll just be easier on everybody into the future. And I also want to talk about this controller, because the controller, it kind of looks alright. I mean, you can kind of see the Sony up in it where they stuck those analog sticks at the bottom, but then at the same time they kind of took some little things from Nintendo with their share buttons and kind of those placements of the 4 top buttons in the middle of the controller as well, and along with Microsoft's, you know, button layouts, so the A, B, X, Y. But the interesting thing is that mic on the bottom of the controller. And I know some people probably already talking about this. Google always collects that data from whenever we're watching YouTube videos or while we're searching on their browser and everything. They're collecting that data so they're able to kind of get how they're able to show their commercials and everything, get their revenue like that. They collect all that information and stuff on the side. So I don't know, some people probably already said that potentially Google will be listening on some of our conversations, similar to how like Alexa may sort of kind of do that, or how Google Home sort of kind of already does that. But I mean, you can think what you think, but there is that. And I like how there's also an audio jack at the bottom of the controller, so it'll be easy to plug in your wired headsets and everything. At least that is a very good note. And next, the potential competition. Now, I know one thing's for sure is Microsoft is definitely kicking themselves in the butt, because their whole xCloud thing, where they want to potentially do a streaming thing, yeah, Google kind of beat them to the punch, publicly showing how they could potentially do it. And Google has those resources where easily clicking on a YouTube link or Twitter link or Discord link can bring you into games, and how it'll be seamlessly click here to see how you want to play this game and just go straight up into it, as compared to Xboxes where they're going like, well, when we try to do our thing, it might be something similar. It might still be tethered to an actual console, and it streams directly to the console and then beams it up onto your TV. Or they could do something similar to how they do some stuff online, since it is Microsoft and they have experience with dealing with computers as well. But it is going to be interesting to see how Microsoft kind of responds, as well as Sony, and then eventually Nintendo. And one thing I noticed that I actually mentioned to one of my friends before is, I like how in a recent interview kind of way back, how Nintendo said, hey, if our market happens to change, we won't do consoles anymore. And I know some people kind of jumping and flipping out like, what, Nintendo's not going to do consoles anymore? But it's kind of interesting how they said that a ways back, and now we having the whole streaming discussions going on right now. And the matter of fact that Nintendo said, hey, if our audience happens to change and they want to go from one way to the other, hey, we're willing to adapt. And I think that Nintendo, as well as Sony, I believe they got their personal first-party IPs to where they can, I feel like they can adjust and they can do that. And they also, just a quick little side note, Nintendo, a rumor is going around that Nintendo may be actually entering the phone market as well. So, I mean, that just kind of shows that Nintendo is willing to be flexible as well. And I feel like Google's Stadia introduction will actually be a good introduction to being able to improve the whole gaming market as a whole, because competition can actually bring good things out of this. Who knows, all of this stuff that's being brought up from Google's thing with Stadia, along with Microsoft potential xCloud, and who knows what the PlayStation 5 could potentially do in the future. But that can also help Nintendo's case, and where, well, everybody else is getting so good with the online. Hey, we need to beef up our own online and actually make our subscription based service better than what it is currently, what it is right now. And I believe that's basically all of the main things I have to talk about this. But just some concluding remarks. They did say that more information is going to be revealed within the summer. So that's going to probably be roughly maybe June or July-ish. So I'm imagining it might be sometime a little bit after E3 when we get information from, you know, Sony, or not Sony, actually Sony's not even going to be there this year though, force of habit saying that, but Microsoft and Nintendo, as well as all of our other third parties. It might be after that, just so Google themselves, similar to how they first revealed Stadia here within the GDC conference, they're probably going to do something a little bit after E3 just to kind of hold all of its stuff together and make it stand out from the other big three things that we normally have going on right now. And they did say that it's going to be launching in 2019. So we just gotta have to keep our eyes tuned in on all of this information. And I think this is just really interesting because it's not just every day that you have another console entering the market like this. And I'm thinking overall, I think the potential is there, the vision is there, but it's just how well can Google actually execute this. And starting off, it's only going to launch in the US, Canada, UK, and mostly all of Europe. So if you're thinking continent-wise, only North America and only Europe for the most part. And it's kind of shocking because even Joe Merrick, the owner of Serbi, even said it was kind of weird how not even in Japan it's going to be first introduced there. But over time, Google's going to branch this service out and get it in the hands of all the other people across the world. And the only other bad little negative thing I can actually say about this is how well can they execute this in terms of people's Wi-Fi internet speed will be. Because in certain areas here in the US it's good, in other areas of the US it's not so good. So it's just, there's a lot of things that Google is going to have to overcome in order to do this. But I do like the fact how Google is dipping their toe in the water and saying, hey, I believe this is where the future is actually going to go, but let us be the first ones to get a piece of the pie and get our hands up on it, because hey, we got the money and the infrastructure to basically do this thing correct, but it's just how are we going to execute it? How are we going to advertise it? And how is it actually going to be able to run to potentially change the future? And I believe that is all I have for Google's reveal on Stadia, and I'm curious to hear all of your thoughts. So in the comments section down below, just give me your overall thoughts and your overall impressions on what you thought of during Google's conference, because I feel like for their conference it was some very strong hits on one side and some sort of kind of misses on the other side though. But overall, it is very interesting. I'm very curious to see how Google will play out their Stadia service system. So that is all I have for today, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on anything gaming, anime, or anything else I feel like talking about. And I'll talk to all y'all later.